Thank you, guys. Welcome. So, as mentioned, I work for Blizzard Entertainment. We're most known for, any of you guys that don't know us, we're most known for our games World of Warcraft, Overwatch, Hearthstone, StarCraft, Diablo. We've been in kind of the core games space for 29 years, started in the PC world, then evolved to console, and now we've gotten into the mobile space a little bit. And my background is I've been doing market and consumer research for 17 years. I've been on the gaming client side for 12. Started on the gaming side. So on the vendor side, I was at companies like Nielsen and Westat doing consumer research. And then I moved over to Activision for a while, working on games like Call of Duty, Skylanders, Destiny, Transformers, things like that, before coming to Blizzard 4 years ago. And what I'm going to take you guys through today is some emerging gaming trends, focused primarily on mobile gaming, but I'll bleed into PC and console a little bit here. All right. So here's what I'll take you through, these four sections. I'll be starting with today's innovation ingredients, where I'll talk about three themes where companies are innovating within those. There's some of the most interesting areas. Then we'll talk about some specific trends that are happening today in the gaming space. Move into tomorrow's gaming trends. Again, the three themes that you'll see that we're seeing on our side, but you may be unfamiliar to you guys. And then I'll just reveal where you should look. I'll just say, if you want to do all this stuff on your own, here's some places to go to look for new trends yourself and stay on top of things. So hopefully that will give you some actionable things to do at the end. All right, jumping into today's ingredients. The first place where we're seeing innovation occur is in distribution overall. As you guys know, every year there's faster devices, faster speeds, internet grows into more developing markets, smartphones grow. And what's happened is, as you're getting into more developing markets, you see some interesting partnerships and things happen there, whether it's with different payment providers, corporate alliances, or different types of deals. There's some interesting things that are happening in that area for companies as they're moving out of the more developed world. The second area we're seeing some innovation is in social. So particularly on the low latency side, just a few years ago, you couldn't play some more core games that require fast twitch action or coordination that was respected by some more avid players, like a lot of the Blizzard players. But you can do that now in mobile gaming, and that's made things more social, and people can handle all those things. The expansion of active gamers has also happened. Not too long ago, gamers was primarily ages 6 to 34. We see a lot more in the older age range. Gaming companies have started acknowledging that, going directly to those different groups, and just across the wide spectrum of socioeconomic status as well. It used to be for middle class plus gamers. Now with free-to-play games, you see all over the world, all over the income and socioeconomic spectrum. And lastly, games as social networks have evolved. So Fortnite being a great example of this. If you are a middle schooler, a few years ago, still happening now, it actually became a social network situation where you came home from school. If you wanted to talk to your friends or peers, they were on there. They were playing that game. That was where you went to talk with them. Whether you liked the game or not, it was so popular, that's where you needed to go. There's also a good example in China. This game, Fantasy Westward Journey, has a bit of a reputation as a dating application in a way where people go on there and they form such close relationships that a lot of real life relationships end up happening outside of that game. So sometimes the games in themselves, whether you like it or not, they are becoming social networks for the moment, as long as the game is very popular. The third area we're seeing some innovation is in business models. And this is actually getting really interesting at the moment. So there's definitely some microtransaction fatigue happening. Microtransactions aren't going away, but we're seeing some more clever things happening among the more core games out there, where you're seeing subscription models, battle passes, other things that aren't just, here's how you save time by this microtransaction. We're seeing some more pushback, and companies are doing some interesting things there. There's also been some increased regulation, whether that was loot boxes or particularly in some countries in Asia where they're limiting the amount of hours that people can play, or tracking the types of games that they're playing. Companies are doing some interesting things to get to work within those regulations, using the constraints that breeds creativity, or finding clever ways to work around them. That has spawned some interesting things that are happening. And the last is the direct-to-consumer account relationships. So for the longest time in gaming, there was so much where you had to go through a first party. You didn't have direct contact with your accounts. Now, so many games do. They set up their own accounts on top of, say, your iOS or your Android account. ID that allows you to give very specific offers just to those people, to set up VIP services, set up in-person events. All those things are happening, and people are doing some really clever things on the business side there. So those are three of the areas where we're seeing a lot of the innovation. That gives you, broad space of if you're trying to innovate within your own games or looking at partners, it's probably in one of those three areas. But here's some specific examples of things that are happening that you can take away from. The first is gaming influencers leaping into pop culture. Some of you guys may know the guy on the right, Booga. He was the Fortnite World Cup champion this summer. He was kind of a big deal. He won tens of millions of dollars. He was on covers of New York Times and other things. He also got on the Today Show, on the Tonight Show. He became a big fixture, and it was very much a pop culture moment. If you were a kid, teenager, college-age kids, you wanted to be that guy for that day. What you guys may not be as familiar with is the two people on the right. So the top guy is a guy by the name of Tim the Tap Man. He streams on Twitch. He's quite popular. And the bottom guy is Ninja. Might be more familiar with him. These stills are actually from Super Bowl ads from this year and last year. They're not just a typical consumer product Super Bowl ad. They're the ads that the NFL actually did themselves. So where Tim the Tap Man this year, there was a bunch of NFL players sitting watching. You might have saw the kid, Bunchy, I believe his name was, running in with the football. They had a still. The NFL felt it warranted, we should put an influencer in there from the gaming and have that as a call out in addition to all these big NFL stars. Ninja did the same there. He was actually pretending as a server to Juju Smith-Schuster in the year before. So very much these are, Super Bowl ad, NFL. It doesn't really get much more mainstream than that. We've also seen some interesting things with the influencers here in terms of exclusivity deals. So again, Ninja's on there. All of these folks here. So we've got Ninja, guy with Facebook is The Sky's Toast. Then we have Valkyrie, Pokimane, Dr. Lupo. They have great names, right? Courage. All of these people signed exclusive deals for creating content, streaming, and VODs on each of these platforms for multi-million-dollar deals. We've seen this battle that's occurred over the last 6 months, last year, where everybody's trying to lock in these big influencers saying they need that for traffic. These are the people that are trusted. We've also found from a lot of our own events, we'll bring Hollywood celebrities, my company's based in Orange County in LA, we'll bring them, but these people get way more interest from our gamers. They are far bigger celebrities than the typical people you'd see at the Golden Globes and other stuff. They get way more interest, much more people know them. So it absolutely makes sense that they're getting paid. And this is starting to come into the mobile gaming space as well. Another one here is screen agnosticism, I'll call it. So on the left there, you have some of these platforms like Google Stadia, Microsoft Project xCloud, and NVIDIA GeForce Now that allow you to play more games that usually required a much more powerful system that you can now play with a not so powerful system that allows you to play in the cloud. And as this evolves, it's still happening. There's definitely a lot of kinks, and there have been some challenges with each of these things. But as they evolve, then things won't be limited to you need the $3,000 PC to play this level of game. So these are just a few of them. This is also happening outside of the Western world. NetEase and Tencent are each doing this in China as well. On the right, these are some titles that are also handling screen agnosticism. Hearthstone is one of our titles, actually, where we have both cross-play and cross-progression, we would call it, across mobile and PC, which means, so if you get into a match of Hearthstone, which is kind of a card battle game along the lines of what you might be familiar with, like Magic the Gathering, things like that, you may be playing, if you're on mobile, you could be playing against a PC gamer or a mobile gamer you don't really know. And also, if you build up your account, you build up your collection on mobile, and then you decide you want to play on PC or vice versa, all of that stuff carries over. That's still pretty new in gaming, and it actually requires a lot of work on the back end, but we see some of the titles here as good examples of games that are doing that as well. Because to the consumer, they just want their collection to carry over. They want to be able to play with their friends regardless of what system they have, and they want to be able to play it wherever they are. Another interesting development that's happened is in the mobile gaming space is gaming peripherals. So this was, very common in the PC and console space. There was a lot of money spent on these and accessories, but in mobile, it's still relatively new. But what's happening is, as mobile is getting more and more core, this is particularly happening more in Asia, you see gamers caring about their rank and caring about their leaderboard and their social status, and they will use whatever edge they can possibly get. And this has breeded all of these gaming peripherals. These are just a few examples, but from my team's research, we've actually been surprised at the adoption that some of these have had. Some people try it once and it doesn't work out, or they're using it for nefarious means to get ahead. But we're even seeing on the mobile gaming side, for instance, people doing plugins like that one in the center where they can plug in a mouse and keyboard so they can just get ahead and dominate. A lot on the back end, a lot of the developers are able to detect those things and matchmake accordingly. But all of these things are happening. You're also seeing the influencers then using these accessories and things as partnerships. They'll be playing with the things on the thumbs, and that's a co-sponsored partnership. Another development is in subscriptions, and this is happening two different ways. So on the right side, stuff you may be more familiar with is kind of at the first party level. So you have Apple Arcade and Google Play Pass, where they take their premium games, which are non-free to play games, bundle them all together. You pay an annual monthly subscription, and you have access to them, as many as you want. It's a very Netflix-like model. Pretty common. It's done all right, not massive success, but it's an interesting development. And then you're also seeing it happen in the free-to-play games themselves, creating their own subscriptions. So I've got a few examples here, like Mario Kart Tour has this Gold Pass, where if you sign up on a monthly basis, you get access to more things, in-game currency, and other rewards. The one on the bottom there is a game PUBG Mobile, one of the biggest in the last year worldwide. If they have a Prime one at a certain price point, and then they have a Prime Plus, so they have various levels where you get different perks and can earn things faster. So subscriptions are happening both at the larger level, at the system level, and then within the games themselves. Related to the subscriptions are battle passes. So this got very popular in the PC space first, and then the console space. Most popularized probably by Fortnite, but the idea of the battle pass, for those you're unfamiliar with it, is there's usually a free tier and a paid tier. And within it, even if you pay, you don't get the things instantly. So in the free tier and the paid tier, you then, based on your gameplay, whether you reach certain levels or you do certain things in the games, you unlock other things. So in the free version, if basically your engagement then gives you rewards, you're rewarded for your engagement, and people are like, well, it's free anyway, I might as well join it. That's fine. But then the paid version says, well, you're engaged so much, if you do this many hours or this type of level or this type of thing within the game, you can unlock even more interesting things. This has been a huge business in gaming, and it's been one of the more accepted ones by gamers themselves. They don't seem, from our research, they don't feel like it's as greedy, or it's a clever monetization that people seem to be more okay with, particularly because there is a free option and paid option. The last of the today's trends I call is genre mixing, and I call out a few games here. Actually, Arknights is spelled a little differently, but where we're seeing blending of genres. This is happening a lot in gaming. Categorizing what genre a game is starting increasingly to become very difficult. So you take a game like Coin Master here, which was very big in 2019, where they combined a social casino game, typical casino like you guys have seen, like slot machines with a base raider where you're actually attacking friends' villages as part of it. Another example, I know there's some Zynga people here, Empire and Puzzles combined a typical match 3 game, if you're familiar with those like Candy Crush and many others, with a hero collector where you're actually collecting different heroes that have different powers within the game. And then Arknights combined a traditional role-playing game, RPG game. They have a whole story behind it with a tower defense game that plays almost like a strategy game. So this is the blurring of the genres is happening, and we're also seeing some interesting developments in terms of what games are doing well. The ones that are mixing genres often can peak out a bit. All right, jump into 3 areas of tomorrow's innovation ingredients. So I talked about things that are happening today, and if you're really on top of it, you'll be like, yeah, I kind of know those, but maybe you're not as familiar with these. So the first area is reinforcement learning in artificial intelligence. So AI, huge buzzword, all that's happening. Reinforcement learning is a piece within it. Doing some really clever things are happening in the space right now. Some of the use cases are testing different scenarios, where you want to see what happens basically operating as QA for you, for your games. Task automation, you can actually use this to, whether it's building pieces of programming or art, and taking out some of the development parts that people don't actually enjoy doing in the game. That's just making it, allowing the reinforcement learning and the AI to create it for you. And the one that I'm actually most interested in is the expert simulations, where you can train something to act as basically a pro player. So we can see on our back end how long it takes a really strong player to complete this level, or how long it would take, or what are the things they would do to break the balance in the game without having to do, we'll still do QA tests and betas and other things, but this allows you to see it without, in a very short period of time, even before then, so you can make adjustments. The second area for tomorrow's innovation is in hyper-personalization. So every year things get more personalized, but some really interesting things are in development now on this front. So customized user experiences make sense. My experience is going to be very different than yours. But that's also happening in the infinite worlds area with procedurally generated worlds that when I land on this planet and you land on it, our planets are completely different right now. And if I do it tomorrow, it's completely different than what I saw yesterday. Things like that, and where it goes on, and you can truly have unique experiences. Also, localization beyond language and country. That was where localization mainly was, but now there are things where, maybe a certain street, certain things happen in that area, or if you're at an event, there's different rewards that occur. It particularly happens in some of the location-based games. That's really interesting. The third area is creator integration. So this is still newer to mobile games, is more common from the PC world. So a lot of games are starting to create creator modes that allow their users to basically opening up some of the development tools so you can do what you want within the game. And the more progressive ones are even doing things where they've not only allowed those modes, but they've allowed the creators then to have a revenue share involved. That if you put your level or your map or gameplay mode out there and people use it, you can actually get a cut of that. Or even if you're creating some artwork or something, skins for a character, you can get a piece of that. And some pro partner perks that happen if you're a really top creator. They're really strong. They do things like they're inviting you to different events. They're giving you early access. They're letting you talk to the developers. If you're one of the people that's basically helping the game grow through your creations without actually being a developer. All right. And then just before I open up to questions, I'll end with some places if you want to stay on top of all of these trends. I'm going to show my work here. Some of the places where I go to stay on top of this. There's just basically 3 areas. The first is looking at game design news. Overall, some Deconstructor Fun, Games Industry, Gama Sutra, Pocket Gamer Biz. Those are great places to go. Stay on top of, read them regularly. If you're reading those regularly, you'll know these things. Some trend forecasting services where they're actually trying to predict what's happening in the future, and they're largely pulling from things outside of gaming. So you won't see as much gaming things there, but you'll see some things in other areas that are interesting. WGSN is one I particularly enjoy, Cassandra Report, Foresight Factory, Trend Hunter, or some others that are out there. And then the last one is more formal gaming market research services that just cover the gaming area. Specifically, they will usually talk about some trends and other things that are happening. They tend to be a little bit backward looking, maybe 3 to 6 months, but you can get it kind of all in one report rather than reading article by article. So IDG does some, Newzoo, iResearch are a few of those companies if you want to get into that. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions you guys have.
Let's give Mike a hand first.
Thank you.